Thank you.
Call the meeting to order.
Thank you. Mr. Canellis, will you please call roll?
Ms. Calvez.
Here.
Ms. Carasola.
Here.
Ms. Carr. Mr. Corey.
Here.
Mr. Hayward.
Here.
Ms. Scarpelli.
Here.
Ms. Stevenson.
Here.
Ms. Rendell.
Here.
Dr. Robinson. We have a quorum.
Thank you. Daniel and Juliet, will you please lead us in the flag salute?
I pledge allegiance of the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Adequate notice of meeting. In accordance with PL 1975, Chapter 231, notice of tonight's meeting was mailed to the record in the Ridgewood News on January 9th, 2024. Notice of this meeting was also mailed to the Borough Clerk and was posted on the bulletin board of the Board of Education office in the Administration Building on the same date. Ms. Emma, will you please read our mission statement?
The Glen Rock School District, founded on principles of education in partnership with a supportive community, provides an exceptional education to all students in cultivate resilient, responsible, and engaged global citizens.
Thank you. All right, Dr. Charleston?
So good evening, everyone. We have some special guests here tonight. We have three readers from Central Elementary. We have Daniel and Juliet, who are in second grade, and we have Emma, who's in fifth grade. I know in a little bit Emma is going to be giving us a report on what's going on at Central. But I also know that Daniel and Juliet, some of the board members have some questions for you, if that's okay, and kind of ask you how things are going on at Central. So I'm going to turn it over to.
So I'm curious, what was your favorite school assembly so far?
It's probably the dirt bike assembly. The dirt bike assembly and the science assembly.
How about specials? What's your favorite special?
Gym.
Easy one, yeah.
Writing, math, and gym.
What's your favorite subject?
Reading. Writing and math.
Thank you.
Okay, I have a harder question for you. You ready? What would you do if you were the principal of Central School?
I'd add an arcade and a pool.
Nice.
Get puppies, okay, and a pool.
Excellent. Great
I like
answer.
the puppies. I have one for you. What do you love about Central School?
That it's like big and there's like a lot of good teachers. There's good teachers and every year we get to find new students to be friends.
That was a great answer. Thank you.
And Emma, you have a report for what's going on at Central. We're curious. I know the board always loves to hear what's going on in our elementary schools.
Hi, I'm Emma Patrice, and I am a fifth grader at Central School, and today I am here to talk about what is going on at school. In fifth grade, we just finished our spring concert where there were multiple acts such as the fourth and fifth grade band and fourth and fifth grade violinists, and finally the early morning chorus. During the early morning chorus performance, we sang the song Pure Imagination, where Henry Bonetto played a saxophone solo in the middle of a song. Everyone did a great job. The art show is coming up where the art teacher will display the art we have made over the year throughout the school. The parents come to see all the hard work the kids have put into their art. Some of the art for the fifth graders include bird nests partially made out of clay and some clay food pop art. NJSLA testing is coming up, and in the 5th grade, we have the new science test to try. Hopefully, I will get a good score on the science test. Field Day is also coming up, and instead of the 8 stations that we usually do, there will be 17 with 2 rest stations. I am curious to see what the new stations will be, but I am not looking forward to getting dunked. Lastly, for the 5th graders, I am really excited about the end of the year pool party and the moving up ceremony. I can't believe my time at Central is almost over. I will miss Central School. Thank you for listening.
Thank you.
And my only question I have is since 5th grade's almost over, what are you most excited about next year coming to the middle school?
Probably the food.
Mr. Canellis is very happy to hear that. Yes, for sure. You all did a wonderful job. If it's okay, we'd like to take a picture with you so we can celebrate this moment. So why don't we grab our T-shirts, our pins, and our certificates, and we're going to meet right up here in the front, okay? We always love having our readers here. It's always nice to see our elementary students. And tonight, we also get to recognize one of our students from Clara Coleman, and I believe Mr. Thompson is here to help us recognize Kelsey Sheridan, who won first place in an Irish step competition. Mr. Thompson.
Dr. Charleston, Mr. Van Ness, members of the Board of Education, I'm very pleased to be here tonight to present one of Clara Coleman's finest students, a 5th grader, Kelsey Sheridan. Kelsey has been Irish dancing with Ridgewood Irish Dance for the past 6 years. This summer, she placed first in age 10 novice at the RTN National Championships in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. She then went on to compete in November at the Leinster Championships, an international competition held in Dublin, Ireland, where they know a little bit about Irish dancing. At the Leinster Championship, she placed third in the preliminary event for her age group, as well as several other top finishes in additional dances. Kelsey continues to dance and compete throughout the year, as well as perform at various community events and sporting events, restaurants, and private functions, especially around St. Patrick's Day season in March. We are very proud of Kelsey Sheridan. Come on up, Kels.
And our final recognition tonight, we have the 2024 Bergen County Boys Indoor Track Small School Team of the Year. And we have Mr. Weinberg and Ms. Gallo who are here to help recognize our students. Yeah, just give them a go. Yep.
All right, everybody, can we hear me? Perfect. Just wanted to welcome everybody. This is our second year in a row winning the Bergen County Small School Team of the Year, so we are very excited to be back. I just wanted to talk a little bit about the people that are here tonight. Gal will interject and step in. Sometimes. So we went to the season with high hopes. We wanted to repeat as Bergen County relay champions and possibly do some damage at the state level. In the county tournament, we ended up coming in first place by about 12 points. In the league meet, which Glen Rock has never won, we came second place by 1 point to Hasbrook Heights. And at the state level, we came second place to Hasbrook Heights again, by this time 3 points. But don't take anything away from all these guys. This is one of the strongest teams that we have had in Glen Rock school history. And I'm just going to talk about how they helped us win Small School Team of the Year. So starting with Toby Caswell. Toby is a freshman for the team, and he quickly became one of the varsity runners.
Because he's very quick.
At the Bergen County relays, he was the 400 leg in the distance medley that took first place in small schools and third place in the entire county. We have Jacob Cece here. Jacob, one of our distance runners. He was part of the 4x-mile that took first place in the small school division and also third place in the county. We have Ben Habler. Ben has done so much for the distance program. He's run the 800, the 1600, and the 3200. At the state level, at the league level, and at the county level, he medaled in every single event and was 1 place away from making it to the state meet of champions. We have Devin Smith. Devin Smith, one of our 800 and 400 runners. He was involved in many relays, including the 4x800 and sprint medley. The sprint medley and 4x800 both ended up qualifying for nationals. We got Harrison Wertley in the back. Harrison, one of our 200 and 400 guys in outdoor. He also throws javelin. He was part of the sprint medley team, and he's pretty much been a major reason why the sprint program has been so successful. We have Ryan Wolf in the back. Ryan, unfortunately, does not do spring track, but in the winter program, one of our distance runners. After a 1-year hiatus, he is excited to be back here. He was part of that 4x-mile team that I mentioned before, and he also was a 2-mile specialist throughout the season. We have Tyler Caswell, who we'll talk about again in a moment, but Tyler right now has the school record in the 55 hurdles and he was number 8 in the state in the 55 hurdles. And a lot of the reason that this program has been so successful is because of Tyler. We have Ethan Ryman. Ethan he pretty much did it all. He did hurdles, he did distance, he did sprints. He was part of the 4x4 team at Bergen County Relays that took third place in the small school division.
And they also set the school record, the Bergen County record, right, for small schools?
Yes, they did.
Yes, they set the record.
We have Arab Kochar. I call him AK. AK is one of our fastest sprinters. He was part of the sprint medley team that qualified for nationals. He is somebody who has been dedicated to the team and spends hours and hours in practice and after practice working on his starts, working on himself, and pretty much getting to a place that has led to so much success with our sprints program. We have Leighton Kelly. Leighton, one of Gala's high jumpers. Leighton is one of the best high jumpers on our team and has, in the high jump meet at Garfield, he has medaled and made it to the Garfield meet champions for high jump. We have Caleb Shim. Caleb, one of our throwers. He was part of the shot put relay that got us points at Bergen County Relays, and he's also been a major leader and mentor for Evan Uzon. Evan Uzon is a freshman and right now is #1 in the state as a freshman in the
Yay.
freshman division for the
Pretty
shot
impressive.
put.
It's impressive. And he's #1 by 3 feet, so he's secured
He-
that spot. It's not a couple inches, it's 3 feet.
Yes, he has recently thrown 45 feet 8 inches in the shot put, and he is only getting better and better. We have Neil Saxena. Neil has been part of the hurdles crew and also part of distance. He most recently took 3rd place in the spring season in the 800. At the state section in the 800, he also took 6th place. He was also part of the hurdles relay that ended up coming first in the county indoors. And also Peter Renga. Peter is somebody who has pretty much tried every single track event out there. He was also part of the hurdles team that was first in the county. In the spring season, he has turned himself into a triple jumper, discus thrower, javelin thrower, and also a hurdler. All of these kids have led to the success of our program, and I'm so excited to be sharing this moment with them. And now I'm going to hand it over to Coach Gallo.
No, I don't have anything else to say. Oh, he pretty much said it all, but I'm just thankful. The kids are amazing. They worked really hard all winter. Our program is growing. We're up to 83 athletes on the team, and it just seems to be getting bigger and bigger. And with that success, they bring success for the boys, and they've been leaders and mentors to the younger people on the team. So hopefully, going further, we'll be here again and again and again. So thank you to everybody. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Just hand
Brian, and they'll
it
hand them
out. Yeah.
afterwards. We're gonna take a picture up here, guys. Sure.
Hold that up. All right.
Thank you, everyone.
Yeah. Yes, it is.
All right. All right, so next up, we have our National Teachers Day and National School Nurse Day. So I'd like to read those first, and we'll do it as we always do. We'll start, Ms. Scarpelli, and we'll go around. Okay, so whereas teachers make public schools great, and
Whereas teachers work to open students' minds to ideas, knowledge, and dreams, and
Whereas teachers keep American democracy alive by laying the foundation for good citizenship, and
Whereas teachers fill many roles as listeners, explorers, role models, motivators, and mentors, and
Whereas teachers continue influence us long after our school days are only memories, and
Whereas teachers mold future citizens through guidance and education, and
where teachers encounter students of widely differing backgrounds, and
Whereas our country's future depends upon providing quality education to all students, and
whereas teachers spend countless hours preparing lessons, evaluating progress, counseling and coaching students, and performing community service, and
Whereas our community recognizes and supports its teachers in educating the children of this community now, therefore,
Be it resolved that the Glen Rock Board of Education recognizes and acknowledges the impact of teachers on our lives.
thank you. Let's start with nurses. Yes.
whereas children are the future, and by investing in them today, we are ensuring our world for tomorrow, and
whereas all students have the right to have their health needs safely met while in the school setting, and
Whereas children today face more complex and life-threatening health problems requiring care in schools, and
whereas school nurses are professional nurses that advance the well-being, academic success, and lifelong achievements of all students by serving on the front lines and providing a critical safety net for our nation's most fragile children, and
whereas school nurses act as a liaison to the school community, parents, and healthcare providers on behalf of children's health, and
whereas school nurses support the health and educational success of children and youth by developing and providing programs and leadership, and
Whereas school nurses are members of school-based mental health teams, and
whereas school nurses understand the link between health and learning and are in a position to make positive difference for children every day, now, therefore,
be it resolved that the Glen Rock Board of Education joins the National Association of School Nurses, the New Jersey State School Nurses Association, and the Bergen County School Nurses Association in celebrating and acknowledging the accomplishment of school nurses and their efforts of meeting the needs of today's students by improving the effective delivery of health care in our schools, and shows gratitude for school nurses not just on May 8th, 2024, National School Nurses Day, but at every opportunity throughout the year.
thank you. All right. Can I get a motion to approve the resolution that we just said? Ms. Carosella, seconded by Mr. Hayward. Mr. Canals?
Ms. Calves,
yes.
Ms. Carasola,
yes.
Mr. Corey,
yes.
Mr. Hayward,
Yes.
Ms. Scarpelli,
yes.
Ms. Stevenson,
yes.
Ms. Rundell.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. All right, so we're going to skip around a little bit just because it makes a little bit more sense. So we're going to start with policy under general. And I'll turn it over to you.
So we had spoken about, I think the last couple of CAL meetings, bringing up policies just to review them and to reaffirm them. And for here, you have policy and regulation 7510, which talks about use of our school facilities and the fees associated with them. So I thought it might be a good opportunity for the board to consider whether or not they want to change those fees, leave them as is, table this for a future discussion. It's up to you. So the policy and regulations are in front of you, and I open the floor for a discussion.
Does anybody have any initial comments? I know that the town has increased their rental fees. I think we should just stay consistent with them. It'll stop some overuse of our fields if we stay consistent with both. So that would be my recommendation. They went up to $200. This is like for camps and out of like off-season stuff, not just like our town sports. That's my,
So are you saying stay consistent? If they've raised it to their fee, we should match it just to
correct.
be equal?
That is what
Yes,
I'm saying.
I agree with that.
Anybody have any thoughts on that? No? All right. I guess we can move on.
Is this, if I could just ask for clarifying, is this just for the turf fields, Ms. Rendell? This is for all fields?
I think it's, does it say all fields in there?
It does have, for fields, there's baseball, softball, the lower turf field, and the football or multi-use field. I think those two fields you would want to change from $100 to $200 per use, just that change.
Correct.
Is that accurate? Okay. So for the board, that would be under fields, this would be the regulation, lower soccer, lacrosse, turf. The high school, location at the high school would be $200, change from $100 to $200, and the football multi-use field turf would be to change from $100 to $200. Those would be the only changes.
Is everybody okay with that? Does anyone have any comments on that? It would be for,
Well,
we're not
we-
voting on it tonight or anything.
No, what we
but-
would do is you could sit on this for a little bit, and
Yeah.
then we would bring this up at the June CAL for first reading, and then you would vote
Second.
on it at the second meeting, and then it would be in effect.
Yeah.
Starting July 1st, basically.
Yeah, if anyone has anything to say. All right. All right. So we can move on, IMP?
All right, we have a number of things to discuss for instruction and programming today, and we brought a bunch of our friends to come and talk about it. So the first thing up you see on the presentation there is we want to talk about sixth grade seminar, and to do that we have Ms. Gerlando and Mr. Cusack.
All right, good evening, administration, members of the board. Paul Cusack, Supervisor of Instructional, Educational, Technology, and Media Centers. So tonight I'm going to be talking about sixth grade seminar. It's going to be a new sixth grade offering in the middle school. There we go. So what we're looking to do is engage students in activities that increase their soft skills. We're looking to create a quarterly course that helps to transition the students from elementary school to middle school, helping them to understand more about their own learning styles, their learning process, and the ways in which they do different things. So what we're looking to do is foster for them a sense of agency and self-efficacy to help them understand how they learn and the benefits of different skills that they have that they can use in the classroom. Part of this is going to be exploring interests and goals that they have, and the way that we are going to do that is we're going to have three main areas of focus. So as I said, this is a quarterly course. It meets for roughly 45 days. We do have a drop rotate schedule, so that drops down to 33.75 classes, or 33 or 34 classes, depending upon the marking period. So we're going to break it into really 4 different parts. These are the 3 parts that we are going to have taught in the class. First one, digital citizenship. They do get this in the media centers in the elementary schools, and we're going to build upon this, what they're already doing, with the excuse me, bill that Governor Murphy signed in January of 2023 for the digital literacy standards for the state. We're getting a jump start on that. So the state is working on the standards that will be released, but we're going to get a jump on that through this course. So they're going to talk about digital citizenship and all the key factors that go along with that. We're also going to talk about media literacy. So there's a lot of content out there. Students are great if you give them a computer or an iPad to scroll through it, but we want them to be able to understand what they're consuming and how they are consuming it. So that's a very important part of media literacy. And the last part is going to be metacognition and executive function. So as we talked about, different learning styles, self-regulation, critical thinking skills, and building upon those soft skills that we talked about in the first slide. That fourth part is going to be guest speakers. So as we break it down, we're going to have roughly 8 class periods per section in that first part, which takes us to 24 class periods. We're going to have an introductory class, a reflection class at the end. So we're at about 8 class periods, 9 class periods left. We're going to have guest speakers come in, different members of our school community, to talk to students about different areas. We can have school counselors come in, wellness center counselors. The team leaders, each sixth grader is on a team, something new for them that they don't really know about, so we can talk about teams with them. Members of the administration, we do advisory in middle school, so we can talk about things like that. And then also having student leaders. So we have eighth graders who are student leaders who help out the sixth graders with their transitions, so bringing them in and having them talk as well. So there's a lot of different areas that we can touch on through this sixth grade seminar. So how do we accomplish this? This will be a one-quarter course, as we talked about. It will rotate in the class periods with the world language classes. So next year, there will be the 3 world languages. This will be the 4th course that the students have in that world language rotation. So it fills that spot. We saw an opportunity, and we said this is a great area for us to engage in something that students need. It's going to be taught by our middle school, high school media center specialists. So it would be 2 periods out of the day. It's project-based, a lot of classwork in class, and to relieve anxiety on the students, it's going to be pass-fail. So it's not going to add any extra anxiety or stress to the students of a grade. It's going to be a pass-fail because we're talking to them about how they learn. So that's our projection for introducing a student seminar to our 6th graders, that they can learn about how they learn, digital citizenship, media literacy, and then get the opportunity to have guest speakers come in. Something that they really don't get to have throughout their school experience. So it's a great opportunity for us to engage in a new style course. And I think that is, yep, that's the end of our seminar presentation. Questions?
Any trustees have any questions? Thank you very much.
Not a question, but just thank you. I think it's innovative. I really appreciate the thoughtfulness that went into identifying the areas of need, and I'm assuming as things evolve, you'll be able to be flexible on that down the road on what's important, but definitely I know a lot of what we see even with the HIBs around digital literacy, this could be very impactful for lots of those kids, and wishing I didn't have a 6th grader now and he was coming in next year, so thank you.
I agree, it's a great addition. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next up is Dr. Charleston talking about some course enrollment numbers, or is Dr. Daniel talking about that?
We don't, in backup for the Board of Ed, you have your, a spreadsheet there that talks about classes that would be combined, classes that are under 15 that are running. We're happy with Dr. Daniel here and myself. We could answer any questions that you may have. We are running some classes, as you can see, that are less than 15. Generally, those are AP. There are, again, some classes that are combined, but we're happy to answer any questions. As per policy, administration is to share that with the Board of Ed, so this is that opportunity.
Okay, so next up is social studies scope and sequence. We want to revise that a little bit, and Mr. Morelli is going to come talk about that plan.
Good evening. Thanks for having me. So a few years ago when I first started here, one of the first things that I was looking at when it came to the scope and sequence in the high school is I noticed that the 3 courses really operated very independently of one another. So we had world history, US 1 and US 2. And currently, as you see up on the screen, that's the flow that we have that was pretty traditional when the state in the 90s had put in the mandated 2 years of American history. There wasn't necessarily a lot of intentionality around looking at themes across these different courses or essential questions across these different courses. The teachers did do a pretty good job of trying to align the skills, and since I've been here, we've really worked collaboratively. I've worked with the department to try to strengthen that. But one of the things that's continued to come up, voiced mostly from the teachers, and something that I definitely noticed myself, is that there were a number of concerns around the order that we were currently teaching the courses in. So since I've been here, we did revisions on world history, as I had talked about a couple of years ago. We made it more thematic in 9th grade. And then just this year, we did a major revision in US 1 and US 2, where basically it's more of a 2-year sequence of courses of all of American history, rather than you take one class and then transition to something else. And I think that with those revisions and the teachers working more collaboratively on a much more intentional level because they had all written the curriculum together. So whether they were teaching those classes or not, we had everybody come together to work on it. We started to notice that there were these concerns that were sort of already lurking became a little bit more obvious. The first I would say that really jumped out is that the jump going from Social Studies 8, which is an untracked heterogeneous middle school class, to then go up to AP World History as an option for some ninth graders was a really, really big jump. It is, having taught AP World History myself for many years, as we all know, advanced placement is a college level class. And so even though we are teaching it to high school students, just the demands, the pace, the amount of work, the level of analysis and nuance that's part of it, it's a completely different ballgame. And our students and our teachers, to their credit, are hacking it. But sort of coming along with that, one thing that was unveiled this year when we partnered with Challenge Success was we gave that student survey in the fall. And one of the questions that students had to answer was about their level of academic worry. And one of the things that showed up in the data that was particularly interesting is that if you looked at ninth graders and you, on a scale of 1 to 5, 1 being not feeling worry at all, 5 being feeling very stressed out and worried, the average ninth grader without any AP classes has a 3.69 out of 5, which is, I think, something we could talk about as a separate issue, but not necessarily right now. However, when you compare that to students in ninth grade taking 1 AP class, that went up to a 3.93. And the only AP class that freshmen can take at Glen Rock High School is AP World History. So there's a definite jump, especially when you compare that with 11th graders that are only taking 1 AP class. You see it going from a general 3.77, no APs, to a 3.83. So just looking at those numbers, I mean, I think it does make sense that juniors in general are a little bit more concerned about their grades. They're getting closer to college. The college process is sort of lurking on everything. But looking at that differential in ninth grade was something that stood out to me in looking at the data. The other thing that in talking with teachers regularly that were teaching ninth grade and in 10th grade is that the students that were going from 8th to CP World History and then from CP into honors, there's not that like extra on-ramp, right? So they're still not necessarily building that skill to go toward an AP class a little bit later on. It's sort of, if you look at the scope and sequence, it's a little strange that we have World History, College Prep, and AP and no honors, and then we go backwards sort of to CP and US 1 honors, and then again to honors, CP, and AP in 11th grade. And then lastly, with this revision of the standards in 2020 for the NJSLS, there's a lot more nuance and a lot more complexity in world history. Just what the standards are asking of students is much higher level. It used to be much more about cramming in as much content as possible, and now it's about much more depth. So with that, over the past year in conversations I've had with the high school social studies department and the 8th grade social studies teachers, we would like to propose the following revision. Basically, what would happen is we would take the classes as they're currently written, and we would just switch the order. So we would start with, all students would take the same heterogeneous 8th grade social studies 8, and then rather than going to world history in 11th grade, they would go into US 1. So they would go into college prep or honors, so that would still exist as an opportunity to get that higher level course, but the jump wouldn't be nearly as high as it was for freshmen. 10th grade, we would keep the same 3 levels: college prep, honors, and AP US. So the first AP class that students would be taking in the social studies department would be in their sophomore year. We actually already do offer some AP social studies electives. We offer AP psychology and AP human geography that are options for sophomores. So there would be sophomores that would be taking AP US. I think it would be a little bit more developmentally appropriate, and it wouldn't eliminate any opportunities to take AP courses because we're just switching the order. So it's not like kids are then missing an opportunity, so to say, to take a certain number of AP classes over the course of their high school career. Then we would go to world history in 11th grade, and what we'd propose is to add an honors level. So what that does is, I think, number one, is it democratizes AP world history a little bit more. It gives more students that are more prepared an opportunity to take an AP class in their junior year. It also gives more students an opportunity to take higher level courses, because right now, that honors level is missing in the freshman year. So we'd be actually adding an honors class that we don't currently have. Like I said, students wouldn't be precluded from taking a certain number of APs. We wouldn't be offering an AP US 1 anyway. We can't. The way that the College Board allows you to offer courses, New Jersey requires US history to be offered over 2 years. You have to have 2 years of it to graduate. The College Board only allows an AP course to be 1 year. So most schools just count that as the second year, so you take the test at the end of the 2-year sequence. It doesn't require a major curriculum revision, just a sequencing change. And of course, teachers are going to have to tailor maybe some of their instruction. If they were used to teaching US 1 to sophomores, maybe thinking about what that looks like for freshmen. And then the other thing is, just in my conversations with people in my position around the state, because of that 2020 revision of the NJSLS, there are a bunch of other districts that are starting to consider this, or that have moved to this scope and sequence. So when I first broached this with the high school social studies department at a meeting, it was unanimous excitement and enthusiasm for it. Everybody was on board. In fact, they said, can we do it in September? But it would be a little bit of a jump, because we had already started the process of course selection, hadn't had this conversation with all of you, but I wanted to make sure that the teachers were on board first. So the proposal is that next year we would go ahead with the current 8th grade would take world history the way that we've been doing it. It would be in the 2025-2026 school year when it would change. So as you see up on the screen, the current 7th grade would be the first group with US 1 in 9th grade. And so it would be when the current 6th grade is in 9th grade that the sequence would actually shake out to the new sequencing as we have it. That was basically what you would see, is a couple of years where we would have to double up on teachers teaching US 1 and then teachers teaching US 2. We would sort of pause offering world history college prep for the 2 years on account of the fact that we'd be trying to get the sequence straightened out. But in conversations with the department and with Mr. Lando, one of the things that we would like to propose is that AP World History, we would still want to run as an elective in those 2 years, that we're not offering it as part of a graduation requirement. So you can't double dip. Like right now, kids can take biology, CP, or advanced bio, and then they can go on later and take AP bio, but you can't necessarily like have it count as both, right? We're in that same position here. If we're not offering world history as the graduation requirement, AP World as the graduation requirement for world history, we can offer it as an elective. So basically, over the course of those 2 years, we would offer AP World for students that hadn't yet taken it. So if anyone has questions or anything, I'm happy to answer them.
Any questions? Ms. Scarpelli?
Thank you for this. I've always been doubtful of freshmen taking AP classes, especially like you said, there's no really onboarding for them. But I mean, guilty as charged. My daughter is currently taking it. I didn't let my older kids take it. That's another, I'm digressing. Anyway, so I do like the new sequencing. I like the fact that as freshman year, there is the option to have an honors level class for these students that really do need a little more challenge when they reach high school. So I appreciate that. And then I'm curious to see what will happen to the AP scores in the future when they're not taking it as freshmen, as opposed to taking it when they're maybe a little more prepared for it. So I think this is great, and I support it. Thank you.
And thank you. And then just on that, to respond, I don't have the numbers off the top of my head. I do know that largely, though, across the country, AP World History is taken by juniors and seniors. And so it'd be interesting to compare what that data looks like in comparison. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
And having kids that are in college that have gotten credit for AP, most of the universities don't accept it unless you get a 4 or 5. So if we can get those kids to, it's valuable for the students to have those classes when they get to college, so those
Absolutely.
credits. So thanks.
Anyone else? This was great, Ms. Morley. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Very supportive.
Thank you, Mr. Morley. And next up, we are going to talk a little bit about high school final exams, and that is Ms. Gelando.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure to be here. I wanted to talk about final exams and the recommendation that we've come up with, I think, collectively as an administration, as our teachers, and as our students as well. So in the fall, I met with the teachers in the high school, and I gave them a survey about a number of different topics, and one of those was, at the time, we were talking about midterms and finals. And on the Likert scale, 78 of them answered about what they thought, and one was that exams serve no purpose, and the 5 was that they provide valuable data about and experience for our students. And you can see here that the large majority of our teachers, when we look at the numbers, felt that that exams were valuable. You see the 4 and the 5 at that 73%, and so on down the line. So we delved a little bit more into those conversations throughout the year. And so the feedback that is summarized here from the staff members, you can see is largely positive about their thoughts about bringing back exams. We did do away with them during COVID, and we haven't brought them back yet. So you can see here their thoughts: preparation for the future, keeping students engaged in those last few weeks or that last month of school, thinking about what they know across the year or across a semester, helping them to develop better cumulative test-taking skills, learning more about what they're learning and how they're learning, and then giving them different formats of exams to assess their knowledge in different ways. At the bottom, you see the one drawback that they noted, which was adding to stress and anxiety, potentially. But again, those are things that we have in-house where we work with the kids. If we eliminate that altogether, it doesn't give the kids an opportunity to start working through that. So a couple of great quotes from our teachers. You can see here, it's about going on to the next pathway. A lot of our students are going on to college, and our teachers are expressing the idea that in doing that, without giving them the experience of taking a cumulative exam here, we might be doing them a disservice. And if they're not going to college, there are also opportunities for them out in the workforce or in other areas, pathways that they're exploring, where this type of preparation is also important. We're talking with our teachers about the different ways that we can assess students, and then again, these are different data points that help us understand not only their learning, but our teaching. And then again, learning to cope with those nerves, learning to manage your anxiety and your stress around something that can be difficult can be very important, not just for college, but as we all know, in life. I've spoken with the students in my Principals Advisory Committee, the 9th and 10th grade one, and the 11th and 12th, and as they've said to me, well, nobody's dying to take an exam, right? Nobody's like, yes, an exam. But they're also, on the flip side of that, understanding that it is valuable for them. They talked about the idea of different subject areas, assessing them in different ways. And then they also talked about the idea that it should be worth enough to make you study, but not enough that it crushes your grade and your spirit. And they also were hopeful that if we decided to move forward with implementing exams, that we could have some sort of test prep, because they've never experienced that, especially the kids who are going to be seniors, to suddenly have this idea that I need to now do this without any prep was pretty daunting for them, so they were in favor of that. Some of their comments, definitely stressful, but will I be prepared, right? Is it something that I'll be ready for in the future? Back to that idea of different ways of learning, not just that we're memorizing the information, but we're finding different ways of assessing what students know. And then, as I just said, having a way to prep for that or review ahead of time was definitely something that they're interested in. So the recommendation moving forward was that we do bring back final exams, but final exams only and not midterms and finals. And the rationale behind that is that it's the content that we want to see what they know, but it's also really the experience of taking the exam. So the proposed guidelines would be that they would have an exam in every course except for PE and health. That comes directly from the kids. They told me that they are assessed in PE throughout, that they run the mile, and they do the beep test and all of those things. They said they did not feel that they needed to have that as well. And they also felt that that would give them an off period if they don't have an option for studying. Each course will give a common assessment, and that's in line with the work that the supervisors have been doing around authentic assessment and common assessment. So each course, US 1, English 9, that would have a common assessment that is the same across all of those sections. Semester 1 courses, since we're only doing finals, would allot 2 class periods because we're envisioning 90 minute to 2 hour exams. We're looking at 10% for the total, and then students who sit for the AP exam will be exempt from the final exam because they're achieving that same goal of having studied a large amount of material for an exam. They have to sit for the exam. They can't just register for the exam, so that'll be a nuance that we make sure they understand. The goal here would be to give students a varied experience and types of summative assessments. Some of the work that our teachers have already been doing in small groups by department is talking about the format or formats that make the most sense for their discipline. So they've done that small group work, that initial planning period. So for instance, some history teachers were meeting together and they were talking about doing DBQs and essays because that matches the authentic assessment that they're doing in the class. Performance-based assessment might happen in science where they're doing an extended lab and they do some analysis there. So the long-term goal would be that every subject area would give something different, and then across that whole spectrum, students would be getting a wide variety of opportunity to show what they know. Our key takeaways are that we all believe that exams can be beneficial. They would focus on content and experience. We would have those varied assessments that I just discussed. We're still talking about exactly what the schedule would look like. There'd have to be considerations for seniors. I know that there's, conversations around the new contract, so I don't want to say that we're ready to do it one way and then we'd have to change it later on. But again, it's 90 minutes to a 2-hour block or exam, and there are a number of different ways that teachers have proposed to do that. So I think if we have the go-ahead, ultimately, we could determine what makes the most sense. And then we would definitely be looking to provide the students with that transition period of having that prep work and that prep period that they're looking for. So that is that. If there are any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
I want to thank you for this presentation, and thank you for speaking to the teachers and for the kids to get their feedback on it and getting their buy-in to this, because exams, they are important. I mean, I see with my own kids, my 2 older ones took exams, my younger one didn't, but college also does the exams in all different ways. There's a lot of group projects, there's individual testing. So this looks wonderful, and I'm happy to see that final exams are back, because they do provide, good information for everybody, and it is a good life skill for the kids to have. So thank you.
Agreed. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Ms. Carpenter?
I concur. I think I'm excited that they're coming back. So thank you for doing this, and I like the structure. It seems like very well thought out, and a lot of stakeholders were considered, so I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Mr. Corey?
I just want to say you were answering the questions in my head as you were going through the presentation, so that was fantastic. Like the semester 1 logistics, that's a problem that comes up. It's something you managed. This seems well thought out, and I wish everybody luck.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
So what we're going to do is this will be added into the program of studies.
Yeah.
And then they'll go over it with the students and staff in September, so everybody's prepared for it for next year. And then in terms of developing the schedule, again, we'll tackle that once the contract is approved by the GREA and the board. and then that'll be added into the program of studies as well. But for the existing freshmen through juniors and 8th graders, you will have final exams next year, and you can thank Mr. Orlando.
Yeah, that's right, that's right.
Yes, congratulations, thank you.
I'm going to point out their peers who.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Orlando.
All right.
The next presentation is about daily announcements at the middle and high school, and that will be Mr. Cusack again.
Good evening again. I'm going to be talking a little bit about daily announcements for the Glen Rock Middle School and High School. So we have a proposal. Here we go. What we'd like to do is have the students produce daily announcements that are then posted on our YouTube page, and these are played by the teachers in a homeroom type setting for the students during the class day. So what this does is increase the amount of visibility for school activities and achievements. Currently, we have announcements that go out over the PA system every morning. So at the start of that first block at 7:50, when class starts, you actually have about 2 to 3 minutes of announcements. So if I teach that first block, I've now lost 2 to 3 minutes. So what we're looking to do is build in time in that day when the teachers can then play that. So it gives us a centralized platform where all of our announcements are located. So if someone was to miss something, all of those announcements are available. Showcases what our students are able to do and empowers the student voice, because this is a student-led production, just like our world-famous show, Charleston in Charge. It's one of our student-led productions. It also fosters that student-wide engagement and community, bringing everyone into what we're doing. And it provides students with that real-world learning experience of what it's like to work in a TV studio and produce a daily show. So how do we go about doing this? On the left, you can see our current 58-minute schedule. Starts at 7:50, day ends at 2:56, 58-minute schedules with 4 minutes of passing time. What we're looking to do is take 1 minute from each of the blocks and put that at the start of block 2. The reason we put it at the start of block 2 is seniors who have option come in at the start of block 2, and that's when the daily attendance is taken. So what we would do is that gives the teachers time to take attendance. It's a 7-minute addition to that block, and it also gives them time to play a 5 to 6 minute daily announcements that the students produce. So all we're doing is taking that 1 minute from each class, so it's 7 minutes total, but as I said earlier, 2 to 3 minutes from that first block is already being absorbed every day for announcements. So we're really only moving 4 minutes at this time. So this is what our schedule would look like, and as I said, these are middle school and high school announcements. So it's not just for our high school students, it's to build that entire sense of community. We're one building, we're all in the same space, we share classrooms, we share teachers, so it's one building that we're going to be representing. So how do we go about doing this? When we move forward, it will be for the 24-25 school year. We're looking for about 12 to 18 students that will sign up for an independent study. So it'll be a semester's class that will be held throughout the whole school year. So how do we accomplish doing that? If I go back to our schedule, you'll see in the new schedule, there's a block 0 from 7:28 to 7:20 to 7:48, 28 minutes. If you double that, it's 56 minutes, which is one under that 57-minute schedule that we're looking for. So the class will meet during that 0 period for 28 minutes. They'll produce the announcements. Part of it will be taped live in the morning. Part of it will be field packages that are already produced by other classes. So it'll be a combination of everything from our media program. Students will have designated roles. We'll have executive producers, segment producers, on-air talent. And what they will do is produce that daily show that goes out. So these students will, in 24-25, signed up for an independent study, as I said, semester course that runs over the full year. In 25-26, we'll add to the program of studies as a daily announcements course that will also be a semester course that's run throughout the full year. So what we're going to watch now is about a 2-minute, 20-minute production. It does not have the Pledge of Allegiance, which will be done every morning, and it doesn't have what I'll call segment 5. That's the second to last part of the presentation. This is where we would preview different things that are going on in Glen Rock. Just give me 1 second before you hit play. Thank you. So some examples, these were student-generated ideas. Mondays could be Mondays with administration. Tuesdays could be the TV, music, media drop, where they talk about different things that are going on, publicizing different pieces of content that have been created. Wednesday, weather. Terrific Thursday, highlighting staff and student achievements of different things that are going on, acts of kindness, academic and athletic achievements. And Friday could be what's good going on around Glen Rock for the weekend, publicizing different events, not only with the school, but in the community itself. So we're looking to build that larger sense of community. So this is a brief presentation of what this is.
Good morning, Glen Rock Middle and High School. I'm your lead anchor, Jalila Volsi.
And I'm your co-anchor, Casper Majewski, and you're watching GR News.
Today is Monday, April 29th, 2024, and it is day 2 in the rotation schedule. And now for your morning announcements. The GRHS photography students' work will be showcased at the Glen Rock Library from May 4th to May 27th. There will be an artist reception hosted by the Friends of Glen Rock on May 5th from 2 to 4 p.m. All are invited to attend this event and enjoy the amazing artwork on display. Seniors, please check the Schoology page for athletic scholarship applications. Please print these applications and hand deliver them directly to Mary Wallace in the high school gym no later than 3 p.m. on May 6, 2024. No late applications will be considered. Any questions, contact Mary Wallace via email at wallacem@glenrocknj.org. The next meeting of the Ice Club will be Wednesday, May 1st at 7:30 p.m. in the Wellness Center. Check the club Schoology page for more details. Please contact Mr. Volcano with any questions. And to wrap up our announcements, we have a tasty treat for you courtesy of the cafeteria. On May 3rd, we will be serving breakfast starting at 7:30 a.m. It will consist of freshly made waffles with a variety of yummy toppings for you to enjoy, so definitely check that out.
Now for some sports. Congratulations to the varsity baseball team for being one of the 4 undefeated teams left in North Jersey.
A huge shout out to our girls lacrosse team on their amazing senior night in a 10-9 victory against Montville. Great job, ladies.
In boys lacrosse, our senior Panther, Parker Dupuis, scored his 100th career point, leading to the team to a 13-4 win against Riverdale. Attaboy, Parker.
And finally, make sure to vote track star Harrison Wortley for being nominated for Athlete of the Week. Let's go Panthers! Before we sign off, do you want to get your story on GR News? Well, we want to hear from you. Scan the QR code below and let us know what's good in and around our community. Please check Schoology for any updates of announcements. And don't forget to check us out on social media. You can find us at Glen Rock Media on YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok. This is Julie Lavolsi.
And I'm Casper Majewski.
Thanks for tuning in. Have a great day, Glen Rock.
Go Panthers!
So that's our proposal for daily announcements for the 24-25 school year.
First, Mr. Cusack, I do want to thank you for taking off Charleston in charge, because I cannot watch myself on TV, so it is much appreciated.
Previewing the next episode of Charleston in Charge was the segment 5,
Yeah.
but we did take that out.
I used my superintendent power and said, please take that out. Yeah, it's hard for me, even though my biggest fan is here, I still can't do that. But I do, before we get to any questions, as the board's aware in the community, the TV studio was part of the referendum. We've been expanding it, every year, and I think this is really another big step forward for our students. We have a wonderful teacher that's running the program. Mr. Cusack and Mr. Orlando are also doing an outstanding job in mentoring and moving the program forward, and we're excited about the opportunity this presents for our students. So thank you for putting this together.
Thank you. Anybody have any questions, comments? Ms. Carosello?
So I love it, and I'm a big fan of all these productions and the students, and I completely agree about building community. My only question would be if there was an opportunity to do it at a different time. Kind of a proponent of starting later in the day, so having the kids arrive earlier. I didn't know if there was more of an opportunity to do it at lunch or after school, like instead of the morning, I guess. And
one of the ideas that we've had in addition to playing it in the morning is to have it in the air teams on the TVs with closed captioning throughout the day. So I don't know if there's a way to, right now, to do it in the middle of the day, but that's a way that we could incorporate it throughout the day.
I think, a lot of what some of us were hearing at recent board trainings was about just the benefits of a later start time, improving academic, mental, physical outcomes. So that's just why I raise it. If it's just, like the late night shows sometimes record, well, I guess not the day before, but I just didn't know if there was an opportunity to record the day before, later in the day, versus them coming in first thing in the morning.
Oh, for the
Yeah,
the
for the
students
recording,
making
yeah.
oh, I see what you're saying.
I love the change to the second block and having it run there. I think that makes a lot of sense.
Okay, oh, sorry, I
This is
misunderstood.
more about
Yeah.
the students have to
Yeah.
arrive early.
I don't know, I mean, it's,
So
this is a media club versus a course issue.
Right, and this is, we're looking at this running as a course. So the issue with running it during lunch is that depending upon the drop rotation day, Ms. V's schedule, she teaches both middle school and high school. So she's teaching on certain days during both of the lunches. And then for after school, you run into students with sports, other activities and things like that. So again, it would be something where students would be signing up for it, so they would be understanding, but it's definitely something we can talk about. So.
I think this is the first step in getting live announcements to our middle school and high school students and a learning opportunity for our children. So we wanted to tape it first, so record it live and then play it later. I think in the future, there's potential for it to actually run live during that block, right? We're not there yet. We hope to get there soon, but I think for at least this upcoming year, this gives our students the best chance for success in terms of running the announcements.
I just wanted to say that I agree with Stephanie's concern. We sat through several presentations down at school boards on the benefit of a later start time, and I know that it's a trend that seems to be happening in New Jersey, and not to take away from this, because it is wonderful. I just wish there was a way to do it that it wasn't 7:20 in the morning, because the research backs up the fact that kids need more sleep, whether they sign up for it or not. I mean, they still get, if they could have not a 7:20 class time, I think that would be for the best interest of the kids. Thank you.
Ms. Scarpelli.
So theoretically speaking, if this board or administration ever did move to starting the school day later, this would hopefully not be at 7:20, maybe it would be at 8 o'clock, so that would also move too. So I'm glad that it's voluntary and not everyone has to be here at 7:20. That was nice to see, because when we got the presentation, we didn't have any of the details of what was going on. But I would hope that we could, slide it back if we ever got to the point where we were able to adjust our school day start time. Thanks.
Anyone else? Ms. Calvez?
I just want to say I think it's a really exciting development, and I'm excited to see it come to fruition and hear about this from the kids in the community, because I think they're going to love being on YouTube and having the chance to be in front of camera.
One of the things that the kids have said in my meetings with them is that they really are craving and looking for ways to feel more connected. And their idea wasn't this in particular, but it was, what are ways that we can highlight more of the things going on in the school, the sporting events, the other activities. So I think this fills a need that they're expressing as well.
Thank you. And just from my point of view, kids tend to get up when it's something that they're interested in, and these seem like kids that really are interested in this, so I don't think it'll be a problem either way. So, thank you.
All right, so next up is another group of people to talk to you about stuff. We're moving to old business. So these are things that we've talked about a little bit in the past. A month ago, I gave you a preview of a presentation about elementary phonics programs. And I told you that this month we would have some more knowledgeable people coming in to talk to you about this. So we have Ed Thompson, we have Krista LaCroix, Kristen Gomez, Sherry Craples, and Rebecca Tell to talk to you about our update for phonics for the fall.
Oh, hi, good evening, that's better. My name is Krista LaCroix, I'm the principal at Central School. I had those cuties here this evening. So we're just gonna give you a quick update, and I am in charge of talking about the timeline. So this started almost a year and a half ago in January when we had initial discussions with elementary principals, the literacy coach, the K-12 supervisor, and teachers. February, the committee met with teachers from all 4 buildings. March through June, we kind of did our own professional development, learning about lots of different programs. From that, we decided to kind of shift the pilot to K-3 only at this time, and November to December, we chose pilot teachers, and we chose, had those pilot teachers trained. We had 2 programs that were chosen, Sunday and Phonics First. We had them going on in each of the 4 schools, K through 3. From January to current, they are finishing out the year teaching those programs. The committee met, teachers, principals, to come up with a decision, and we have made that decision and are looking forward to the professional development and pushing this forward. I'm not going to tell you what it is because the people behind me are going to, although you can read it.
So in addition to the body of research that supports the value of explicit phonics instruction in early literacy development, our teachers were also expressing a need and desire to find and implement a program that would increase student transfer of knowledge and skills to decode and encode proficiently. We knew that this meant finding something that would allow teachers to deepen their understanding, grow pedagogical approaches, and be responsive to their student needs, all while providing a structured scope and sequence consistent across the district. From this, we developed the goal of identify a cohesive research-based phonics program for all elementary schools. When forming the Phonics Word Study Committee, it was important that voices from a variety of stakeholders be included. The elementary school principals surveyed their staff for interest. Based on those results, they worked together to form a committee that represented the broad spectrum of students that we serve. This committee is composed of general education teachers from kindergarten through 5th grade, as well as elementary special education teachers, reading specialists, and members of the child study team. After forming the committee, we met several times to review program materials and meet with consultants. Ultimately, a decision was made to pilot 2 programs in kindergarten through 3rd grade for the 2023-24 school year. We'd like to thank everyone on the committee for their hard work and insight, especially the kindergarten through 3rd grade teachers who participated in the pilot this year. They have welcomed multiple observers into their classrooms throughout this time and have provided us with constant feedback.
Good evening. So the committee considered about 7 different programs, including Foundations, Hegarty, 95% group, Spellography, Sunday, and Phonics First. Where scheduling permitted, our teachers on the committee joined calls with reps from the various companies to get an overview of the programs, learn about the PD, the materials, et cetera. And based on those presentations, as Rebecca shared, Sunday and Phonics First were the 2 programs that were chosen. Phonics First is a multisensory, systematic, structured, and sequential phonics-based program directed at-risk, struggling, learning disabled, dyslexic, and ELL readers, hits both the Tier 1 and Tier 2 levels. Teachers liked the Phonics First program for the multisensory emphasis as well as the PD provided. Teachers that piloted that program learned a lot about how to teach phonics, even apart from how to use the program itself. And the PD requirement consists of 30 hours self-paced and product and practice-based. The Sunday program, also systematic and structured, is Orton Gillingham-based. It's a multisensory program. Strategies are built in. It's a K-5 program, even though we're going to focus on the K-3 next year. Teachers like the scope and sequence and the lesson plan structure, the minimal daily planning for teachers, and the lessons available fully online. The PD requirement for Sunday is 1 full day, and it's product-based.
So why Sunday? When finalizing our programming decision, we wanted to ensure that we picked something that equips students and teachers for success. Sunday System Essentials is a simple and effective way to bring multi-sensory phonics instruction into the classroom. It provides straightforward and explicit instruction through lessons that are designed to support the National Reading Panel's 5 components of reading. Additionally, its frequent data collection helps teachers quickly identify students that could benefit from additional support, which could take the form of small group or one-to-one instruction. What's more, Sunday allows learners to understand the interconnectedness of reading, spelling, and writing.
Once our pilot programs were up and running in our K through 3 classrooms, we started to get feedback from teachers, and you'll see on the right of this slide some of the themes that came up when we asked for feedback from our pilot teachers. Was that they almost immediately started to see transfer from the phonics work to students reading and writing. They also noted that once they were able to get through the initial learning of routines for each of the programs, students really took to those routines well. They adopted them quickly, and students started to actually like the routine and kind of predict and liked that part of their day and part of their schedule. A lot of our teachers noted and commented on the easy implementation, the minimal prep that went along with Sunday, and also high levels of student engagement. So we're going to talk next about the professional development that will go along with the adoption of this program, as well as what's next for teachers and students in grades 4 and 5. So our timeline rollout for our phonics program in grades K through 3 is that we will train all of our K through 3 teachers on the Sunday program, and we hope to implement this in September of 2024. Our goal is to train all of our homeroom teachers as well as our special education teachers and our 4 reading specialists. Sunday actually has an intervention piece to the program, and we are looking into how our special education teachers and how our reading specialists would maybe use that as an additional resource to provide specific and tiered intervention to our students who are either at risk or already identified as needing more support. The professional development that we plan to have or provide will be hopefully take place on the openings of school, and it will be with a consultant from Sunday and hopefully be on site to provide that. In addition, some of the things that we spoke to committee members as well as an administrative team spoke about in terms of how to successfully roll this out. One of the things we want to do as we wrap up this spring is do a training audit of all our teachers in grades K through 3, as well as our special educators and reading specialists. And what we mean by that is to just kind of take an audit of who has what type of training. We're in a lucky position where many of our teachers already have some level of multisensory reading training, whether it's 30 hours or some even have 2 years worth of a certification. So we really would like to go through and decipher who has what type of training and then design the Sunday training based on that audit. Our phonics committee members who piloted this year and also contributed to the selection of the program would also be available and part of the ongoing professional learning that we plan to provide. Sunday itself provides ongoing support throughout the school year in the form of online courses and other scaffolded support that we can design along the way. We also discussed having regular district-based supports such as grade level meetings, cross-district visits from classroom to classroom where teachers can go into a colleague's classroom and watch the program play out. And then also Sunday comes with a nice a built-in component for assessment. So once we get up and running, an idea would be to also hold grade level meetings where we're looking at data in real time and talking about what areas in our instruction and in our teaching could potentially be areas for further professional development.
So we've talked a lot about what we're going to be doing for our K-3 teachers, but our 4 or 5 teachers were among those who are most enthusiastic about getting a phonics program into our classrooms. But as you all probably, I've said this before, the market around these products is changing really fast. And right now, there are a lot of offerings K through 2. There are a whole bunch that go up to 3, but there are far fewer that roll all the way to 4 or 5. They start becoming more tiered interventions, right? Like a lot of these programs offer tier 2, tier 3 at grades 4 and 5. And so what we decided was, after reviewing all those programs last year and our 4 and 5 teachers being on those calls, nothing felt quite right to them just yet. And so we said, we're going to put a pin in 4 or 5 for now, and let's roll out for K3 and do the pilot with K3. And so that was what we did. The plan for next year is to just replicate that pilot with 4 or 5, because even in a year, the market has changed quite a bit. There are more products available, and now with the PD that our K through 3 teachers have gotten and will be getting, we're going to have a better idea of what our 4 or 5 students and teachers are going to need. So we're basically going to replicate this year's timeline with 4th and 5th grade. We're going to review programs over the summer. We're going to continue to review programs because that's kind of already started. We're going to narrow it down and plan the pilot. We'll order supplies. We'll arrange the PD September through December. And then ideally we'll begin teaching with those pilot materials in January in 4-5, just like we did with K through 3. We will definitely pilot Sunday in 4-5. After seeing how it went in K3 and seeing how much our teachers liked it and how much our students liked it, we decided that it makes sense to if we can adopt a single program, K through 5, that would be ideal. But if it doesn't work for 4-5, we're open to that too. And so we're hoping to pilot at least one other program to see, to sort of comparison shop and see what else is out there and see what might work for our students and our teachers. The costs for starting the program are already budgeted for. They were budgeted for the 24-25 school year. We projected these costs back when we started ordering these materials. If we stay with Sunday for 4-5, the price does not go up based on grade, so it's the same. Sunday is an entirely or almost entirely online system, so the model is subscription-based, on teacher and classroom. That assessment piece is built in, that data gathering is built in. And so there's the yearly fee of like renewing, there's the PD that we'll pay for at the beginning of the year and potentially throughout with Sunday if we decide that we need it. And then if we roll it up to 4-5, the costs will be the same for 4-5, but we'll budget for that in this year for next. Thank you guys very much. If you have any questions about any of this, I've got a whole team of people who can help me answer them. But we're really excited to get this rolling for our students and our teachers.
Thank you, and thank you to the whole team. More than a year ago, they came to me and said, we need to start talking about this more seriously, and so I put them on it. This is our team, so if you have questions about it, phonics is not my world. I was a high school teacher, and this is their world. So if you have questions, now is the time to ask them.
Again, not a question, a comment. Just thank you to the entire team. Echo the things that were shared earlier. I am a huge fan of Wharton Gillingham, so I love to see that that's the foundation that the kids will be learning from. I think it's going to be beneficial for everyone. Because I believe, and maybe this is a question, learning through multisensory helps all kids. It'll help the at-risk ones, but then everyone can learn that way. So that's why it's a nice kind of marriage in the classroom. Correct?
Absolutely.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there anybody next? Oh.
Thank you very much. And I also want to thank, as they said, the committee of teachers that have put in a lot of time on this. I've been in a number of the classes to observe this and see how it's going. I saw some phonics first, I saw some Sunday, and they had a parade of people coming through their classrooms to see what's going on. So we really do appreciate their openness and they're willing to work with us. And I appreciate all of you coming out tonight, those of you who are done, run, obviously. We have a few more things here. Mr. Morelli is going to come back up and talk about No Place for Hate, and then I think he will be excused for the night too. So we're getting them out of here.
Hi again, thank you. So as you're aware, we began the process last spring of exploring partnering with the Anti-Defamation League to become a No Place for Hate school. being a No Place for Hate school is a one-year designation. So essentially, what happens is there's a committee that is basically driven by students where they look at and assess culture and try to promote inclusivity. They look at anti-bullying and really looking at respect for school-wide activities that affect all students. So the whole idea is to design these activities and really do what we can to make sure every student has an opportunity to engage in conversation around these themes. When Ms. Gerlando and I started putting together a committee at the end of last school year, what we were really trying to do was tap into the good work that was already happening here. We didn't want just another initiative. We wanted to try to expand and really unite a lot of the ideas that students already had. So ultimately, we have a committee that is made of administrators, community members, faculty members, and students. And the student committee is representatives from the Asian Culture Club, the Jewish Student Union, Alliance, the Black Student Union, the Social Justice Club, and the Middle School Peer Leadership Group. And essentially, that group of students has worked together to design a series of different activities that were school-wide over the course of the year. Some of the highlights include in the A-Wing, you can see there's the No Place for Hate pledge that all students in the middle and high school signed, and we've got their signatures up basically saying, I will stand up and not be a bystander in the face of hate or bullying. We had a lesson analyzing the legacy of Martin Luther King Day, and students debriefed in small groups. For seniors, it was in their health classes, and for 6 through 11 was in their social studies classes. And in June, what I think we're all most excited about is we're hosting for students what we're calling the community fair. So ultimately, students from all clubs in the school were invited to host a booth, as well as with community organizations that work toward inclusivity and justice. So groups such as CRAN and Glen Rock Pride were invited, the League of Women Voters, the religious communities of Glen Rock, where they would host booths to teach students about their culture, the mission of their organization. And so that is slated for June 6th, and right now we already have a good group of both external groups and student clubs that have signed up. And on May 22nd, we have a contingent of students and faculty that are going to NYU to the Anti-Defamation League's No Place for Hate end-of-year celebration for Lower New York and Northern New Jersey, because we have gotten word that we officially will be designated a No Place for Hate school for the 23-24 school year, which is very exciting. So really, I need to applaud all of the committee members and especially the students, because it's been their ideas that we've been helping to facilitate and come to life. So I have to also, of course, thank Mr. Lando, because we've been partners in this, and again, the kids, because they've really been driving it.
Thank you. And Mr. Morelli, we want to thank you because you've been heading a lot of these things and doing a lot of really good work for the school. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Thank you, Mr. Morelli.
Okay, so next up to talk about challenge success and ruler is Dr. Daniel.
Good evening, everyone. I just want to provide you an update on our Challenge Success and Ruler program. So as you're aware, our Ruler program is our partnership with Yale University. It's based in the elementary and the middle schools. Last year, all faculty and staff in the elementary schools were trained, and the program was launched into the classrooms this year. Parents additionally receive monthly reviews of what's happening in the classroom and the lessons and how they can implement them in their home. In early April, the elementary school counseling team hosted a mini ruler evening at Central School, where parents from all 4 elementary schools were invited to learn more about the ruler program. And then they branched out into smaller groups where they learned specifics on the mood meter and the classroom charter. This evening served as a mini event. We're going to host a larger event when the new school year begins, where both parents and students will be invited. The middle school faculty and staff continue to work on learning the ruler approach, and they will also plan their rollout this summer into the classrooms for next year. So our Challenge Success program is our partnership with Stanford for the high school. The team is comprised of the administration, members of the teaching staff, students, and parents. The goal for Challenge Success is to prioritize well-being, engagement, and a sense of belonging in the community. Parents and students were surveyed earlier in the year. Some of those categories included health and stress, academic integrity, parent expectations, and homework load. The students were further surveyed using one of the 5 pilot plans that Challenge Success provides. We chose the I Wish pilot. Students were surveyed I wish, and they had to answer questions on I wish my parents knew, I wish my teachers knew, and I wish my peers knew. With the data from that survey, the Challenge Success teams are looking through the themes that would help focus our plans to suggest some small changes in our community. Just about 2 weeks ago, members of our Challenge Success team went to Boston for the 2nd conference of the year. During this conference, we collaborated with other schools that are partnered with Challenge Success, some that are in their first year, just like us, and some that have been working with Challenge Success for a number of years. So we were able to collaborate with them and learn about some of the practices that they have been implementing and how we can kind of strategize and implement them here as well.
Thank you, Dr. Daniel. Any questions?
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a good night.
So we are going to go out of order a little bit again because we have one last presenter here and we want to get her home if we can. And that is Dr. McKay to give us an update on pre-K and elementary autism program. And then we'll return back to old business with my last presentations.
Unless Dr. McKay would like to wait, and you would probably get on around 9:30.
I will do what I'm told.
Okay.
Hi, everybody. So as we continue to plan for all of our programs at all of our levels over the course of the spring, it has come to our attention that we will have a change in our autism program numbers. And in order to make it more evenly distributed with those numbers, it's going to necessitate us splitting up our K-2 autism class. So what the plan is going to be taking that class. Our current full-day preschool class will house our kindergarten population, and then the current class, the K-2, will actually become a 1, 2, 3 class. And then our third and final class that houses our upper-level elementary students will be 4, 5. Additionally, we will be able to make our half-day preschool program a full day. This will allow the students to have greater access to an increase of time for instructional programming, activities, and related services. They'll have an increased amount of attention and time to their individual needs, and have a more consistent daily schedule with then the following year transition to kindergarten. And finally, just a quick update. Last Tuesday, we hosted a parent-guardian information session for rising grade 6 and 9 parents. Teachers, CST, discuss the programs and services at each of those respective levels. And I'd also like just to thank our teachers, CST, Victoria Lebrano and Michelle Giorlando, for being such wonderful resources that night. So, any questions?
Thank you, Dr. McKay. Appreciate your patience, and thank you for everyone who presented tonight. I think Dr. Daniel, I think you're done, right? Have a good night. We appreciate it.
Okay. Thank you very much.
And we'll get back to you, Mr. Van Nest?
Yeah, I have
Okay.
3 more things. So last month I talked with you some about multi-tiered system of supports, MTSS, and I put some documents in backup so you can remember what I talked about. Basically, we talked to a couple of the folks with phonics were talking about tiers of intervention. It kind of is part of our vernacular now. Tier 1, as you recall, is like for all students, universal support for all students. Tier 2, you're getting much more targeted, some students, small groups, things like that. Tier 3 is much more intensive intervention. One of the aspects of the MTSS model is that there is built in the assumption that students are going to need intervention. It's not an abnormal thing. It's not a this kid is broken kind of thing. It's a normal part of learning, right? Just like we build buildings now with ramps for wheelchairs and for access for everybody, we assume some people have access problems, have physical needs. We assume that students have learning needs, right? We build that into the educational program. And so that's a fundamental part of the tiers of instruction that we talk about. And our good teachers do that all the time. Our teachers are doing that all the time. I see that. I see that when they're pulling small groups. I see that when they're doing extra help. I see that when they're doing a lot of things. And what I talked with you a little bit last time is when we're looking at this MTSS across the district, we're looking at systems. We're looking at systematizing it so that that is built in all the time for all teachers and all students. And we're supporting teachers and students in doing that. So I described last time the appreciative inquiry, which is a strengths-based approach that we're using to look at what we're doing well. What do we see happening well in the classrooms? What do we see working for students? What do we see is going well? And we did a lot of work with that with my administrative team. They worked with their staff. We did surveys. We did a lot of that. Remember, if you remember last time I talked about discovering and dreaming and designing and destiny. So we're starting in the dreaming phase. We're starting in the designing phase. And as far as like what we want it to look like, it's what I was talking about before, a system, right? A system of supports for staff with clear roles, a system of supports for students, a strong system of assessment and reporting of progress. So you even heard some of about assessment today when we're talking about final exams, when we're talking about co-teaching, when we're talking about the departmental work, when we're talking about aligning social studies so that we're really understanding what students need. Assessment is part of that. So what we want to do, and our first steps for the fall, is really kind of focus on a couple things at the elementary level. And the first thing is to look at scheduling. So there are a few things that we really have spent quite a bit of time over the last month or two on this, is that we want to make sure that schedules are consistent from building to building. If your student is at Coleman or your student is at Central, you're getting the same educational structure, same number of minutes of instruction, same number of minutes of intervention or BSI or whatever it is that is. And so we are working on what should those numbers of minutes be? What is equitable? What is right? How do we make sure that we're getting the same thing across the district? One of the things that we hear all the time from especially the elementary classroom teachers is there just isn't enough time, right? There isn't enough time to prep. There isn't enough time to provide interventions. There just isn't enough time. And so we're looking at ways of being creative with time, right? We're looking at ways to get teachers more prep time so that they can plan for these interventions and support for students. And we're looking at ways that we can build it into the class schedule so that there is time set aside for intervention periods. So it's not by happenstance, but it's by plan, right? And so we're looking at some of the other things that have been in teacher schedules and making sure that this is what we want and that it's consistent from building to building and grade to grade, even within the same grade in the building. One of the other things, if I think about, I want teachers to be able to do these tier 1 interventions with all students. I want them to do be flexible and meet the students' needs. They need time to do it. They need time to prep, and they need support in how to do that. And so the other big shift that we're looking at is how do we provide coaching to these teachers? Currently, we have 2 coaches in the district for elementary. We have the literacy coach, we have the math coach. That means that one coach is working with all of the teachers in the district doing math, or all of the teachers with the district doing literacy. That's 120, I think it is. I can't remember off the top of my head. I think it's about that. And we think that we could shift that model to being much more of a school-based model, much more of a team-based model, so that each school, we have a team of people working together to provide interventions, to provide enrichments, to provide coaching, to provide another person to support students. So we're looking at shifting that around. The same goes for, you've heard me talk about it, that we're looking at the edges. I think we're doing a great job in the middle. Most kids are getting what they need, but some of the kids are struggling, and some of the kids are gifted and talented, are getting enrichments, but what else could we do with them? And we think that if we brought that gifted and talented program into that team-based model in a building, it would really take on new life as well and support those students in new ways, in different ways. So, and then the last thing that I want to talk about is, no, I'm sorry, that's where I left off on that. So we're looking at, as you have in your packet, really talking about 8 teaching positions right now. So we have currently 4 media specialists in the elementary schools, And they currently run the media center. They do media center lessons, with students, literacy lesson types of things. And they also do the math basic skills instruction, the math BSI. We also have those 2 coaches that I talked about, and then 2 gifted and talented teachers who each serve 2 buildings. So they're split between 2 buildings also. The gifted and talented teachers do the G&T pullout for those kids who are identified as gifted. They also push in and do an enrichment period with classes. So they'll go into a class once a week for 9 weeks, and then go to different classes once a week for 9 weeks, et cetera. And so every class gets that once a year for 9 weeks. And then one of those G&T teachers does our 6th grade math advancement. We have a handful of kids in that this year. I think it's 5 or 6. And next year we're looking at probably 9 or 10 is what we're looking at. So what we're proposing is changing some positions here so that the media specialists, the 4 of them, continue doing the media centers, continue doing those literacy pieces, but they also are now going to do the G&T pullout and that enrichment period. Many, many libraries over the last decade or 2 have turned towards kind of makerspace, enrichment, technology, things like that. You heard Mr. Cusack talk earlier about the digital literacy standards that are coming from the state. They're responsible for that. And we think that with the enrichment period living there, we might be able to provide a little bit more prep time for the classroom teachers, not just once a week for 9 weeks, but maybe more frequently than that. We also think that, as I said before, if the person in the building is doing gifted and talented, they can be collaborating with the other teachers more often. I'm working with this child in the GET program. Here are other enrichment things you can do. We're in the building. We're together. We're colleagues. Might be a little bit more flexible and supportive of gifted and talented. For the coaches and the G&T teachers, we want to create a new position. There'd be 1 at each building. That would be elementary coaches that we're calling intervention strategies coaches. So their job would be shifting from that literacy or math coaching to how do we support this? How do we support intervention? How do we support tier 1 supports in the classroom? Be part of that INRS team, be part of the how do we support them with tier 2 and 3, coordinate with special education and with the special ed teachers in the building, be a person in that building to coach a team of people that are working with the kids. I think I've said this before, but if you think about like an athletic coach, you could have, Mr. Weinberg, who was here before, he's the coach of all of these people, right? And coordinating a team and getting everybody on the team. But you also could have an individual coach. I am a shot put coach, right? Working with 1 kid. And I think our model right now is kind of working on one thing at a time. And I want a coach that's working with a team, that we're all working together. A group that I'm in, their tagline is something like, the smartest person in the room is the room, right? So let's get them in a room and let's work on building those teams in each building is what we're looking at. That coach would also have to pick up some of the student work that the other folks are doing right now. So it looks like the best fit for that would be the math BSI. Which also makes sense. If I'm working with a kid who needs math intervention, I can also work with that kid's classroom teacher, right? And we can coordinate, and we can all work together as a team. And then one of them would pick up that 6th grade math advancement. And it would probably be at one of the schools that has a smaller population so that the balance is there. So that's where we're looking. Our next steps on this for elementary, the first step is we have to get the right people there. We have to get the people in the buildings. We have to build this out. We don't have a lot of the details about exact minutes and who does exactly what, and other people might need to pitch in, but we have to design that together, right? I don't want to be the person outside designing something and telling people exactly what and how and where it's going, but we need to work on this together. But the first step is getting the people there, getting the positions defined, getting this in order. We will continue to work on this together, moving into that destiny phase of how do we empower, how do we learn, how do we adjust, how do we improve. Last time, Dr. Charleston and I both said that this is going to be a multi-year process looking at MTSS and building this out. But the first step is getting the teams together, getting those through. And then you can see some notes about middle and high school. You heard some of that talking about differentiation strategies, assessment practices, department meetings, middle school teams. We've been talking about that a lot. We'll continue with that. And then as a district, we're going to start turning towards those tier 2 and tier 3 interventions, right? How are we really meeting outside of the classroom, before they're going off to be a special education referral, how are we supporting, how are we meeting their needs? So that's it in a nutshell. Happy to take questions on it.
Thank you for that. My question just, and maybe it's you, maybe you haven't, and maybe it's not really a big question, but I'm just wondering, under this proposed structure, who do these individuals report to? I know the principal is in charge of the building, but I know you also said we want to make sure it's kind of the same throughout the district, so how are they going to be reported to?
So the media specialist will continue to report to the, actually, the media specialists currently report to Mr. Cusack, and the coaches currently report to me, and it would be the same. The difference would be G&T also reports to Mr. Cusack, and we would be redefining that, so they would be coaches.
Anyone else? Ms. Stevenson?
So the intervention coaching positions, they're going to be working with the staff and with coming up with strategies, like if they're part of an INRS team, and they'll be working with the kids just for?
Math BSI.
Okay.
Yep.
So they'll be working with both?
Yeah.
Right.
They may need to, numbers-wise, they may need to help out a bit with the G&T.
Right.
But predominantly, it will be the coaching the teachers and the math BSI.
Then the media specialists, will they be given training in
Yep.
G&T teaching and PD? Because it's a little
Absolutely.
different, right?
So the plan is getting this moving this spring, working with all of these folks, figure out all the unknown knowns and the known unknowns, all of those kinds of things, figure out what we need to do. Over the summer, bringing in folks to do PD, curriculum writing for the enrichment, all of those kinds of things, absolutely.
And then the coaches, just one more question. Are they part of the GREA?
Yes, they are.
Okay.
Anyone else?
All right, I have two more fairly short things under new business. First one is middle school science books. So I mentioned this a while ago because you approved earlier this year a team of middle school teachers to look at some new textbooks. And the reason for that is that Inspire Science, the text that we use now, it's a subscription model and it expires this year. I think it was a 5 or 6 year purchase. And so rather than just renewing it, we wanted to look to see what else is out there. So Mr. Valentino and a committee reviewed, looks like 4 programs: Inspire Science, iScience, Amplify Science, Open Sci Ed. And they narrowed it down to a couple, Amplify and Open Sci Ed, and chose Open Sci Ed. By the name, you might guess it is an open source software. So it is available at low cost to districts, which is kind of nice. So we're going to be piloting that next year. It did have it's aligned to the next generation science standards. It has an A rating from EdReports. It's an open educational resource, and the program materials and downloadables are customizable. So they're excited about it. The committee chose this. They like it. We're going to move with it. The teachers are going to get some training on it. We're going to be doing that. We're aiming for June 14th. He was working on scheduling that. And there'll be some textbooks, especially for teachers' editions and things like that, to purchase. So yeah, that's going to be on the agenda for your consideration on May 20th. And then the last thing that will also be on the May 20th agenda, Dr. Daniel sent me some group work for the middle schoolers that the counselors have arranged. We've done this at least the last 2 years, I think, of these middle school groups. So there are 2 that they're proposing. One is a leadership group for 7th and 8th graders. It'll be 6 weeks long to promote leadership qualities, self-discovery, those kinds of things. And then there'll be a 6th grade group for incoming 6th graders. It's a 3-week group about a confident transition into middle school. So I know that the counselors have run these in the last few years, and they're very well received. Actually, we have parents and students asking already, are they going to run it again this summer? So we'll have that for your consideration on the May 20th agenda as well.
Any questions, comments, Ms. Carpelli?
Actually, seeing the middle school summer group made me think of what we did last year, I believe, with the summer reading. Where we got away from
Yeah, that was
mandatory
2 years
summer,
ago,
right?
and so, yeah.
So I'm wondering, and Mr. Orlando's gone, but bringing back finals, is there, and you don't have to answer this now, because I'm just throwing this at you, it wasn't on the agenda, but Is there a thought in mind for some summer, bringing back summer work for the kids in some capacity?
We have not talked about that lately, but it's something that will come up, especially for, as you said, summer work, not summer reading. We'll be working through that soon. Yep. Yep.
Anyone else? All right. So
All right. This means we can go backwards, back to personnel.
Oh, yeah.
So, and most of these are related to me, which is why I'm commandeering it. So, what's that? I am, that's right. I'm on a roll. So the first two, so these job descriptions that we're looking at for May 20th. So you know that we've been working over the last several months at just revising job descriptions that are outdated or old. So the first two on here are those. So that's elementary counselor and school nurse. They're old. So we had Dr. Daniel work with her staff, look over it. What is the actual job that they're doing now? It has changed over time, and these are more reflective of that. So therefore, your consideration for next time, just to update it. So there's nothing connected to what I was just talking about. The next ones are all connected to what I was just talking about with MTSS. So the first one to revise is the school library media specialist, and there are really two revisions to that, two significant revisions. The first is to add to the middle school, high school job description, the seminar class that Mr. Cusack was talking about before, because as he said, that person will be the one teaching it. So we added that. And then adding, to the elementary portion of it, the gifted and talented in the enrichment. BSI is something they've been doing for the last number of years, but it's actually not in the old job description. So it's worth updating it and making sure it's clear there. The next two, which are new job descriptions, one is the intervention strategy coach that I talked about. So there'd be one of those in each building. And that includes, as I described, the coaching and then also the math BSI, perhaps helping with G&T. The next new one, this is a little quirky, so bear with me. It's a new position, middle school gifted and talented teacher. All right. We're not really changing anything middle school gifted and talented. We didn't have a job description for it. We had one job description, which was gifted and talented teacher, and it was mostly written to cover elementary stuff and didn't really include middle school stuff. So we rewrote it as a middle school G&T teacher. That is currently 2 teaching periods that we cover through an overage. Actually, 2 different people have overages for that. So it will remain covered through an overage, and we've defined what the middle school G&T job looks like. That's why it's a new position, but a job description, but it's not. It just didn't have one before. Under abolish, we have the elementary lit coach and the math specialist. Those are the job descriptions that we would be abolishing because we're replacing it with the strategy coaches. And then it also says abolish gifted and talented teacher. That's the old one that was bad. It was sort of written for elementary, but not really. And so those portions of it that were elementary are incorporated into the new media specialist job description. So please read over those. They are there for your backup, and we will be asking for your approval on the 20th.
Thank you. Does anybody have anything? Mr.
And
Kelly?
I'm just assuming that all the people that had those job titles was aware of what we were doing here tonight.
I have talked with all of them, or the principals have talked with them.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yes, they did not find out because they were on the agenda. No, I spoke with most of them, and others were spoken to by either Mr. Cusack or their principals. Dr. Charleston, I'm all done now.
All right. Thank you, Mr.
Ms.
Van Ness.
Ms. Rendell.
So we put in backup, I think it was about a month ago, we presented the district communication plan, which was a Board of Ed goal. So now you've had that for about 4 weeks. We would like to put that on the May 20th agenda for approval to cement that the board has met that goal for the year. So if there's any edits or questions or comments, please let us know so we could either have a discussion or put that into the plan. But we would like to have this on the May 20th agenda for approval.
Does anybody have any comments on the district plan?
Sorry, I have one comment. I don't know if it really fits here, but I just wanted to raise it. Is there an opportunity to include in the plan some kind of, I don't know, rubric or track, something to let people know. I feel like we talk about it often when you have a concern, who to go to. But oftentimes people are like, go to the Board of Ed with this issue, but we know that they're really not the first step. So I don't know if the communications plan is the right spot for it, but if we can somehow put a little roadmap on like how to address things also.
Yeah, so I'll certainly talk with the Director of Community Relations about incorporating that. It is on the district website. It is on the Board of Education page, the board policy of chain of command. In all of my years in administration, no one follows it, whether it's front and center or not. But we certainly can see if we can include that in there or even highlight it better on the district page.
All right, anybody else? Nope. All right, I think that brings us to Mr. Canellis. Fiscal management.
Thank you. So, if you remember back when I was appointed VBA, we had to petition the Department of Community Affairs to extend the qualified purchasing agent status that had been here in your previous BA for 1 year. Unfortunately, that 1 year wasn't enough to get me to July 1st, so we asked them for an extension for 2 months. They gave us an extension for another year. So you'll see that on the next agenda, that there is an appointment under the existing statute that allows districts that had a previous qualified purchasing agent continue with those bid thresholds. The second thing you'll find on our agenda for next action meeting is a new HP notebook lease, and that is for our staff and administration here at the high school and middle school. It was budgeted for. It came in flat on, so we're in good shape there moving forward. I think it's 190 notebooks for approximately $269,000 over 4 years. You'll also find on our next action meeting the renewal of our agreement with ESS for substitutes and aides. Some major changes is that our aides will be receiving a 3% increase over to 23-24 rates. They'll also be given 3 sick days. All other terms are consistent. All of these terms have in fact been included in our budget, including budgeting for the 3 sick days when we're going to have to get substitute aides. Our sub-agreement with ESS really saw no material changes from this year. We will also have the award of a roofing contract under the ROD grants, actually for the roof that is just above us where we sit. We are doing it under a cooperative contracting, and the bid came slightly over. I think we have to make up something like $8,000, but it will be, for the most part, a restoration, except for a complete rebuild, I believe, on that end of the room. So we should be in fairly good shape there, and that work will get done during the summer. And if you remember from the last time we talked, our other ROD grant, which was for the Coleman School, which saw a change in scope. It was initially thought to be a restoration. It's winding up to be a complete replacement, and so we have to get our engineers and what have you involved. So that's probably going to get punted to next summer. The next item that we have to talk about is our Alio subscription. So as you all know, we're in the process and the last stages of transitioning to Genesis School-Fi. However, our provider of our ERP has decided, and the paper supports it, that we don't have them on a fiscal year basis, but we are a subscription. They are a subscription service. So as of June 30th, that would end our subscription, and July 1 we would have no financial package. So obviously there is no way we can close the year and audit all by June 30th. So what we, in conversation with our auditors and internal staff, We figured that by September 30th, we can have our books closed for the year as well as our audit completed. So an extension of 3 months will run us an additional $8,800. They're going to charge us by the month. If we need less time, we can certainly, try to get a refund, but I think it's kind of cooked at 3 months, and if we needed more, we certainly could extend it, but I don't see that being the case. So that's what I have under fiscal management. Ms.
Any questions or comments? No? We'll move on to operation.
Okey doke. So under operations, so this is a little, it's really innocuous, but it can get a little complicated. So in our long-range facility plan, we're required to have a list of projects that you anticipate doing over an extended period of time. And what those initial long-range facility plans were populated with were with evergreen projects such as roofs, boilers, paving, cement work. And then the idea was as you had projects come up, you would add a new project. Once it was completed, take off the project, but that evergreen base of what a school district needs to do to upkeep its buildings kind of remained the same. When we did our last major amendment to our long-range facility plan, which was when you guys approved the Hamilton expansion, all of our evergreen base projects were taken out of our long-range facility plan. So what we've done is in all of the projects that we've added for this coming summer, we've all added them to by your resolution, added them to the plan. But what we would like to do is to reestablish that base. And what that does is it allows us to begin to save money for those items through the capital reserve. So when we add these items to our project, to our long-range facility plan as open projects, we are not committed to doing them. The estimates are very loose. The ones that we'll talk about, are just conversations between myself and our auditor and our architect. And what they are is really a means to allow us to save via the capital reserve, because you can't have more funds in your capital reserve than you have open projects on your long-range facility plan. So the kinds of things that we're going to be adding are roof replacements in the buildings that don't have them currently in the plan. We're going to add boiler replacements in the one school that doesn't currently have it in the long-range facility plan. We're going to add some parking lot paving. We're going to add walkway paving. And we're just going to do some general allocation for any types of abatements that we would have to do. So when you add it all up by building, you come to a number of $5.25 million, which will then become part of that evergreen base. And so then we would just move forward where when we add a project, we add it to the list. When it's completed, we take it off the list, but the base will always be there. It's somewhere around $6.8 million after some funding matching that the state will do. And that will be more than enough for us to save in our capital reserve for future projects. So on the next agenda, you'll notice that we will have a resolution that puts these generic, non-binding projects onto our long-range facility plan. That's a lot of words to really say. We're putting stuff on a plan so we could save for them, and whenever they happen, we would then have money in our capital reserve to cover them. So are there any questions on that? That was a mouthful. Nope, good. All righty, so talking of mouthfuls, let's talk about where we are with all of our capital projects for this summer. So we'll start with our home economics room. So we opened bids on May 1st, and we are happy to report that the bids came in at $525,000 versus $655,000 that was budgeted for construction. And the $525,000 includes all three alternatives. So for a savings of $130,000, we will have the base bid plus all of the extras that we asked for, which were the islands, the clear cabinet panels, and The solid surface, thank you, the solid surface countertops. So we're really excited about that, and we hope to award that at the next meeting in May. Next project is our PK expansion. So if you remember, that's being broken up into two phases, the first one being the abatement and demolish phase, and then the construction of the actual preschool. We opened the bids on May 1 for that phase. This bid was not quite as advantageous to us. The bid came in $209,000 over, and which was a cause for much concern. And what we believe is the reason for the overage is that you can't view, a bidder could not view all the way up to the ceiling deck, and there's a lot of ceiling down there. So that uncertainty, we believe, has led to some of these bids being a bit higher than we had initially anticipated. But if we look at it on a net basis, right, we're down 209, but we're up 130 on the home economics room. So, we're just short about that, what is it, like $79,000. And in the bid that will ultimately win, there's a $50,000 contingency, which we may be able to recover, as we don't think there is as much work as they think, so we won't have that change orders to cover the 50. So I think we're going to be around $29,000 in the mix. We'll find it some way, probably in phase 2, where we'll be able to, really, make a decision where we can save some money, and that's not in the abatement phase, which I think we're all generally in agreement that we don't want to, cut that kind of work. The only other thing to report on the PK expansion is that our architects have been in discussion with the local building officials, just so that when we apply for permits or what have you, that there is as little misunderstanding or delays, as we're working on a pretty tight schedule. There have been two, I believe, questions that have surfaced, and our architects believe that they'll certainly be able to be worked out with the building official, mostly due to egress and use of the space, where I think on Friday, we issued a letter establishing our position on both points, and we're just waiting for the building official to respond back. We can then go to the fields, the lower field, on the turf and lights. So on the turf, we believe that we are going to probably not go out to bid, but use a co-op vendor. The specs are actually with the co-op vendor as we speak. We hope to award in June. However, when the architect submitted his plans to the state, we also issued them to the municipality, and we received notice, I guess it was last Thursday, that the planning board would like to have us come before them and present. So we are going to be submitting by the 8th our application to the planning board. The hope is to be on their June 6th meeting, and after that point, they have a period upon which they can make comments. And then, again, this is a courtesy review. We can either accept their comments or not, and then we hope, if all goes well, to be in a position to award the co-op contract to the turf provider during our last meeting in June, which would then get them started sometime after that, so around the July 1st timeframe, and that would allow us to be completed by that initial timeframe of August 12th that we had initially established. So if we're on the planning board for the 6th, we are on schedule. If we're not on the planning board meeting of the 6th, then we're probably not on schedule. Go ahead.
I'm just curious, what does the planning board want? Is it for the lights, or is it for the turf?
The planning
that
board
they wanted?
submitted that they want us to present on all three projects: the turf, the lights, and the stairs at the back of the gymnasium. They have not given us any indication as to why. It's certainly within their purview to review those projects, and they have chosen to do so.
Okay. We don't need to notify any of the neighbors?
There is no
because there's
notice
no-
requirement.
Okay, thanks.
All right, so that kind of hits the turf. So the lights, we reviewed the building specs last week. I'm happy to report that in terms of spillage on those lights, at the property line, there was no point where there was more than 2 candle feet of light at the property line, so that'll even diminish even further as you get to the actual homes. And in many locations on the plans, it was much lower than the 2 candle feet. So we're pretty excited about that. Light poles, we finally have a number. They're going to be 80 feet high. They are going to be LED, and with, when I spoke with the architect, he said that the spill would be less than what is currently out there on the portable lights. And we also agreed that the project will include some lighting from the 2 paths that go to that lower field. So we'll have lampposts coming from like the athletic entry to the field, and then going to the side street, there'll probably be ballards to be less intrusive to our neighbors there. That's all, is going to be worked out in the specific and final drawing. So the hope here is to get our bid proposals out and hopefully open the bids before our June meeting, and then hopefully to award at our June meeting, June 24th, that is. Again, same caveat with the lights as the turf. If we're on that June 6th meeting, we believe that we can get to where we said we would get, where all of the work, other than the erection of the posts and lights, would be done before August 12th, and then the final installation of the lights would occur after the fall season. But again, that is based upon the results of the planning board meeting and which one we get assigned to. Similar story on our gym stairs. The gym stairs, we hope to open our bids later this week on the 9th. And assuming we get through our planning board review, God bless you, we will award in June and move forward there. We also had a painting project that was not part of our capital budget, but was part of our regular operating budget, where we were going to do, I believe it was 31 classrooms this year, and that was going to be continued for the next 3 years to where every elementary school classroom would be painted. When we thought we would use a co-op vendor, however, when we went to the co-op vendors, we encountered a $30,000 increase in price over what we had in the budget. So what we decided to do was to write up a painting bid. And so we issued a painting bid, I believe it was last Friday. It was advertised. We'll open it on the 17th, and we hope that with some competition and some non-co-op vendors bidding, that we'll be able to bring that price in a little bit lower. I can say that just by today, it's only been out there really for 1 business day, and we've already gotten about 5 or 6 requests for the bid package. So I'm hopeful that we can bring that number down. Lastly, we have our sinking cabinet project, which you graciously approved the vendor at our last meeting. We have submitted a purchase order to the vendor, and the vendor has reported back to us that they are ready to take shop measurements. They will be in district on the 8th to do that after school, and they believe we will be completed by the opening of school. So good news there. And then the last thing that it's not actually on, it's before my last thing, Advocate. We will have our Advocate renewal Advocate, if, for those who need a little reminder, is the contract monitoring company that sits on top of our Aramark custodial contract. They monitor all of the payrolls, they monitor the effectiveness of the programs, and each year we renew Advocate. And the good thing about our deal with Aramark is that the Aramark contract actually pays for the Advocate fees. So it's a no cost to the district. It's included in the contract. The Advocate relationship will be particularly important next year as it's the last year of our Aramark contract. So we will be putting the custodial services back out to bid at the end of next year. So we will be strategizing with them as what is the best way to proceed. And then finally, some good news. Our boosters would like to do a paver fundraising project over by the snack bar. They are ready to donate in values somewhere in between $20,000 and $25,000. What the pavers would do, they're going to pave, put together an arrangement of pavers. If you're looking at the snack bar over to the left, it's a 26 by 25 area. They'll have larger pavers and smaller pavers, and in the middle of that area, there will be a 12-foot by 12-foot logo that is going to be painted and then bonded onto the actual pavers, and then each of the bricks surrounding will be open for sponsorship by the community. So they're pretty excited about that, and that'll be on the next agenda as a donation fee to accept. I would ask if there's anybody who's not in favor of such a project to just let us know, because we'd like to give them a little bit of a heads up so that they could start moving with their vendors to ensure that they have the materials and the workforce in place to do this over the summer. So if there's any disagreement in there, if we could kind of have that now, so we're all good? Yeah? Perfect. So I'll let them know that they're good to proceed, and they'll start locking up services, and we'll officially accept at our next meeting. And that does it for me.
All right. All right, so next, I'm going to need a motion to affirm our HIB from April 29th. Can I get a motion? Ms. Calvez, seconded by Mr. Hayward. You can call roll, Mr. Knauss.
Ms. Calvez,
Yes.
Ms. Carasola,
I'm going to abstain since I wasn't at that meeting. Is that okay?
say that again, I'm sorry.
I'll abstain because I
Abstain?
wasn't at the meeting.
Ms. Carr, absent. Mr. Corey,
Yes.
Mr. Hayward,
Yes.
Ms. Scarpelli,
Yes.
Ms. Stevenson,
Yes.
Ms. Rendell.
Yes,
Motion passes.
thank you. Are there any liaison reports? From a week ago? Probably not. All right, so next up, public comment. It's for agenda items only. Open it up at 9:17. Name, address. Doesn't look like it. We'll close it at 9:18. It changed. All right, so I just need a motion to adjourn. Ms. Calvez, seconded by Ms. Carasella. All in favor? Aye. Meeting adjourned.